February 26th, 2026, 9:23 in the morning. Emergency services received a call from one of Britain's most notorious prisons. An inmate had been found unconscious inside a prison workshop. According to initial reports, he had suffered serious head injuries and required immediate medical attention. This wasn't just any inmate. This was Ian Huntley, the Soham child murderer, and one of the most hated men in Britain. What happened to him that morning has sent shockwaves across the world. According to witnesses, another inmate had physically assaulted him with an object. Prison officers subdued the attacker, who allegedly stated he believed he had killed Huntley. Medical teams arrived and found Huntley in critical condition. He was not breathing independently and had sustained severe trauma. Doctors on scene assessed his chances of survival at approximately 5%. Emergency personnel induced a medical coma to stabilize him. But here's what you're probably wondering. Why does everyone hate Ian Huntley so much? What did he do to make even hardened criminals want him dead? And why did this attack happen now after more than 20 years behind bars? To understand that, we need to go back to a crime that changed Britain forever. And we need to see what Huntley's prison life has really been like for 22 years. Because by the end of this video, you'll see why some people say what he's endured is actually worse than death row. Most people believe the death penalty is the harshest punishment. But after you hear what led to that attack on February 26th, you might completely change your perspective. Right now, Huntley is fighting for his life in a hospital bed under armed guard. And if he survives, he goes right back to that same environment. August 2002. Two 10-year-old girls, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, left their home in Soham to buy candy. They never returned. Ian Huntley was a school caretaker who gave media interviews claiming to assist with the search. But authorities later determined he had lured those girls into his home, murdered them both, and disposed of their bodies in an attempt to destroy evidence. When the truth came out, the nation was horrified. December 17, 2003. Justice Moses delivered the sentence. 2 life sentences with a minimum term of 40 years before parole eligibility. Huntley wouldn't be eligible for release until 2042 at age 68. Judge stated the order offered little or no hope of eventual release. Most people thought justice had been served. Lock him up and throw away the key. But the real punishment was just beginning. Fast forward to today. 22 years later, Ian Huntley is 52 years old and housed at H&P Franklin in County Durham. Officials refer to it as a Category A maximum security facility. This prison houses some of Britain's most serious offenders, including serial killer Levi Belfield and Wayne Couzens, who murdered Sarah Everard. But unlike a death sentence that would have ended things quickly, Huntley has spent 22 years living in a high-risk environment. And that risk is real and has been building up to what happened on February 26th. Imagine waking up every single day knowing that you are considered a target. Prison sources indicate that Huntley has lived with this reality for 22 years. He lives in a single cell, spending approximately 23 hours a day in that space. Prison insiders have revealed something disturbing about his mental state. According to reports, Huntley stopped eating regular prison food years ago due to fears about contamination. He purchased fast food and snacks from the prison shop instead. His weight increased significantly as he relied on these alternatives, reportedly too afraid to trust the standard meals. This is the level of fear he has lived with daily, unable to trust basic necessities. Yet according to prison sources, he maintained an outward appearance of confidence. Insiders say he walked around with what they called a swagger and had people selling stories about him to tabloids. But everyone knew the truth beneath that facade, and he had good reason to be concerned. The attack on February 26th wasn't the first time someone had targeted Ian Huntley. In 2005, an inmate at H&P Wakefield assaulted him with boiling water, resulting in serious burns. In 2010, Damien Fowkes attacked Huntley with a makeshift weapon. The incident required extensive medical treatment. According to reports, Fowkes asked prison staff afterward whether Huntley had died, adding that he hoped so. These incidents occurred every few years. What makes this pattern even more troubling is that prison sources indicate there has been significant interest among inmates in targeting Huntley. According to former prisoners, many don't care about the original crimes. They want the reputation that comes with being known as the person who harmed Ian Huntley. One former inmate stated plainly that the majority would target him for notoriety, not because of what he did. You're probably thinking, why isn't he better protected? According to prison officials, Huntley is housed in a vulnerable persons unit. This is where authorities keep high-profile prisoners like Levi Belfield and Wayne Couzens, individuals who would face immediate danger in the general population. But even on this protected wing, someone reached him. The February 26th attack occurred in the recycling workshop where only prisoners from his unit were permitted. This was someone Huntley encountered regularly who had been waiting for an opportunity. Two things changed in his routine recently. According to prison sources, he started working at the recycling workshop and began using the prison gym. Both activities increased his contact with other inmates. Both provided opportunities. And on February 26th, one of those opportunities was taken. February 26th, 2026. Huntley was in the workshop. According to reports, he had recently altered his routine on the protected wing. That's when Anthony Russell, a 43-year-old triple killer serving a whole life sentence, reportedly grabbed a metal object with a pointed end. According to authorities, this appeared to be planned. He physically attacked Huntley using an object. Prison officers responded immediately, subduing Russell, who allegedly made statements about completing his objective. When officers reached Huntley, he was unresponsive. He had sustained serious injuries that required urgent treatment. Medical personnel initially assessed the situation as life-threatening. The Great North Air Ambulance Service was dispatched. Medical teams induced a coma due to brain swelling. However, authorities determined that air transport was too risky given his fragile condition. The vibrations could have caused further complications. Emergency services transported him by road to Royal Victoria Infirmary in Newcastle under armed police escort. 2 prison guards and an armed officer accompanied him during the journey, providing continuous medical support. Medical staff assessed his survival probability at approximately 5%. One source described it as remarkable that he remained alive. Right now, Ian Huntley remains hospitalized. More than a week has passed since the attack. According to police statements, there has been no significant change in his condition. He remains in serious condition under 24-hour armed guard. His mother traveled from Lincolnshire to see him. According to sources close to the family, she reportedly expressed to friends that part of her wishes for his passing simply wanting to be free of the ongoing situation. His own mother, after watching him exist in this environment for 2 decades and witnessing repeated attacks, reportedly now wishes for an end because she understands what awaits if he survives. Medical experts who have reviewed similar cases indicate that even if Huntley survives, he faces potential permanent neurological damage. He may lose mobility. He could require a wheelchair or become bedridden for the remainder of his life. And then what? According to prison experts, he would likely return to HMP Franklin, back to that cell, back to that environment, back to the cycle. One prison expert stated plainly that if Huntley survives, his future would be extremely difficult. If he becomes wheelchair-bound or bedridden, he might be transferred to a secure medical facility. But more likely, according to sources, he returns to Franklin. And the troubling reality is this. If he goes back, especially with disabilities, he remains a target, possibly an even more vulnerable one. Now he cannot defend himself effectively. Now his mobility is compromised. Prison sources indicate that if he survives, the pattern will likely continue. Every few years, another incident occurs. There will always be another inmate seeking the reputation of being the one who finally succeeds. Consider that future, living with significant injuries and ongoing discomfort, still confined to that cell, still concerned about safety, still waiting for the next incident. Is that justice? Or is that something else? This brings us to the central question. Is what Ian Huntley has experienced actually worse than death row? With the death penalty, there is finality. There is a conclusion. But with life imprisonment, every single day presents new challenges. Every day, he wakes up knowing he is targeted, knowing someone may attempt harm, knowing he will never be free, knowing even his own mother reportedly wishes it would end. He cannot trust basic necessities. He cannot trust other inmates. He cannot feel secure even on a designated protected wing. And now, if he survives, He cannot rely on his own physical capabilities. Is 22 years of that, with potentially 18 more to go, worse than execution? Some observers say yes. This represents a fate worse than death. This is ongoing suffering that capital punishment could never match. But the situation is complex. Ian Huntley murdered two innocent 10-year-old girls. He destroyed families. He showed no mercy to Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman. He deserves serious punishment. Nobody disputes that. But is this the kind of punishment society should accept? Is a system where inmates can access weapons and seriously harm each other really justice? Or has it become something else? Some people responded to news of the attack by saying Huntley deserves whatever happens to him. They argued that death would be too easy for him, but others point out that we maintain a justice system that is supposed to be civilized. When we allow prison violence to continue unchecked, are we upholding justice or simply perpetuating more violence? According to prison experts and former inmates, most of those who have targeted Huntley over the years are not motivated by the original crimes. They are seeking status within the prison hierarchy. They want to be known as the person who harmed Ian Huntley. That is not justice. That is simply additional violence. The Ministry of Justice has confirmed that a police investigation is underway into how this attack occurred. How an inmate on a protected wing accessed a weapon. How security protocols failed. But this is not the first such incident. The 2005 attack, the 2010 attack, and now this. Each time investigations follow. Each time authorities promise improvements. And each time it happens again. So we come back to February 26th. That incident in the workshop. Ian Huntley lying there with serious injuries, barely surviving. Why did it happen? Because for 22 years, Huntley has existed in a system that has struggled to protect him. Because other inmates view him as an opportunity for status. Because violence against high-profile offenders has become almost expected. What motivated Anthony Russell to carry out this attack? Was it about justice for Holly and Jessica? Or was it about reputation within the prison system? And what happens if Huntley survives? According to all indicators, he returns to the same environment, back to the concerns, back to the paranoia, back to waiting for the next incident. Because that is what life imprisonment means for him. Not just confinement, but confinement in a place where he remains a constant target. After everything you've learned, consider these questions. Is life imprisonment in cases like this actually harsher than the death penalty? Is existing in constant concern, facing repeated attacks, worse than execution? And ultimately, is this justice or is this chaos? These are questions without easy answers, and I'd like to hear your perspective in the comments. I showed you the events of February 26th, Huntley in critical condition, a 5% chance of survival, and I asked you why it happened. Now you understand. It happened because he has spent 22 years as one of Britain's most hated inmates. Because even with security measures, the system has struggled to keep him safe. Because other inmates view him as a path to status. And if he survives, according to experts, it will likely happen again. The question is not whether Ian Huntley deserves punishment. He does. The question is what kind of punishment we accept as a society, and whether existing in constant fear, facing repeated attacks, fighting for survival at age 52, whether that is actually worse than death. Perhaps life imprisonment is not just about confinement. Perhaps for people like Huntley, it is about waking up every day knowing that today could be the day someone finally succeeds. And perhaps that is worse than death row. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the punishment fits the crime? Do you think life imprisonment is harsher than the death penalty? If this video made you think, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.